Good evening, everyone. My name is Diana. Welcome to day 6 of free webinar series presented by Nova IVF Fertility. Nova IVF Fertility is very glad to present everything about fertility, a free webinar series over 9 days, which is hosted by over 30 specialists across India to spread awareness about the various aspects of infertility and the treatment options available. Through this webinar series, our eminent panel of experienced IVF specialists will guide couples who are planning to start their fertility journey and those who are midway down the road to realizing their dreams of parenthood safely and successfully. The sixth session of the series and the topic for today is all about frozen embryo transfer. We have a panel of 4 specialists of Nova IVF today who will take us through the details. So our first panelist for today is Dr. Erika Patel, fertility specialist from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. She will talk us about what does freezing means. Welcome, Dr. Erika. Our second panelist is Dr. Y. Swapna, IVF specialist from Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh. She will explain us about the basic steps in frozen embryo transfer. Welcome, Dr. Swapna.
Hi.
Welcoming our third panelist, Dr. Sulba Arora, fertility specialist from Andheri, Mumbai. She will take us through the details on who will benefit from frozen embryo transfer. Welcome, Dr. Sulba.
Thank you, Diana, and hello, everyone.
Our fourth panelist for today is Dr. Saida Wasim, fertility specialist from Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. She will talk to us about is frozen embryo transfer is better than embryo transfer? Welcome, Dr. Saida.
Hi, Diana, and hello, everybody.
Welcoming all our panelists and all the attendees of the webinar series once again. Now I would like to invite Dr. Erika to take us through what does freezing mean. Meanwhile, if any participant or attendees have any questions, please write on the question and answer. So after all the panelists complete their discussion, we will take through the questions. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Diana. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Erika Patel, and I'm a fertility consultant at Nova IVF Chennai. Today, I will just talk about what exactly do we mean when we talk about freezing or frozen in the term frozen embryo transfer. So freezing is a process which allows people to store their gametes for a later use. By gametes, I mean either eggs, sperms, or embryos. The most commonly frozen gamete is the embryo. The first successful pregnancy resulting from freezing a healthy embryo took place in the 1980s. Since then, many people have frozen embryos and they have used them later. A person may decide to store an embryo if they hope to become pregnant in the future or to donate to others for medical research or for training purposes. So when we talk about freezing, basically we are freezing so that we can use these gametes at any point of time in future. So we can either do sperm freezing, embryo freezing, or egg freezing. So what happens, firstly talking about embryo freezing, so what actually happens to these embryos when they are frozen? Not all embryos are suitable for freezing, and so we choose the good quality embryos which will be chosen to freeze. Embryos can be frozen at different stages of their development when they are just a single cell or at 2 to 8 cell, that is either on day 2, day 3, day 4, or when they are later in their development when they are called the blastocyst, that is a day 5 embryo. At any of these stages, we can choose to freeze the embryos. Embryos are not affected at all by the length of time for which they are frozen, be it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, or even more years. So how do people freeze embryos? The main aim of freezing embryos is to preserve them for a later use. Now, the biggest challenge that we face is we all know that our body is made up of a lot of water which is present in the cells. So when this water freezes, like how we put ice in the fridge, when this water freezes, it forms crystals or ice and it can burst the whole cell. So how do we save that from happening? So to prevent that from happening, we use a process which is called as cryopreservation. It involves replacing the water in the cell with a substance which is called as a cryoprotectant. We leave the embryos to incubate in increasing levels of cryoprotectant before freezing them. And we remove most of this water. We cool the embryo to its preservation state. So how do we do that? Post that, we use something called as vitrification. By this term, what I mean is when we freeze the cryoprotected embryos so quickly that the water molecules don't have time to form the ice crystal. Hence, the cell cannot burst. So this will protect your embryos and it will increase their survival rate. After the process of freezing is complete, we store them in liquid nitrogen, like the tank that is shown in the picture. It is filled with liquid nitrogen. We label them and we put it inside. So that was about embryo freezing. In the same manner, sperm and egg freezing is done. So in sperm freezing, it is a procedure of freezing the sperm sample so that they can be used for pregnancy in future. It is also known as sperm banking or sperm cryopreservation. It is the most successful form of preserving a man's fertility. So the common question is that how long can I freeze my sperm? So when it is stored in liquid nitrogen, it can be preserved indefinitely. And how can I use my sperm in future? You can use the sperm to conceive through either artificial insemination or even can be used for in vitro fertilization, that is IVF. Coming to egg freezing. So when do we talk about egg freezing? A woman who is not ready to have a child can choose to freeze her eggs to try to preserve her ability to have a child later on. Biologically speaking, it is very easy to get pregnant before the age of 30. However, due to professional, social, or health reason, a woman might not be able to be ready to get pregnant at that time, and she might want to defer having a child until the time that is right for her. So freezing eggs may not guarantee a child 100% later, but at least you have frozen your younger eggs. Egg freezing typically works best for those in their 20s and early 30s and is usually not recommended for women over 38 years of age. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Erika. Now I would like to request Dr. Swapna to talk about what is the basic steps in frozen embryo transfer. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to talk about the steps involved in frozen embryo transfer. So we are assuming that the couple had IVF and they have some embryos frozen and they come for a consultation initially to discuss how the frozen embryo transfer cycle is going to be carried out. So we advise the couple to come on day 2 of the period. On that consultation, we confirm the number of embryos that have been frozen for the couple. And we also discuss on the number of embryos they would like to have transferred in that particular cycle. Normally, we advise to have 1 or 2 day 5 embryos transferred as per the international guidelines and as well as the individual history of the patient. So that discussion happens. Followed by that, we do an ultrasound scan for the female to ensure that uterus, ovaries are fine and there is no other pathology. And a consent form for frozen embryo transfer would be explained to both the couple and get their consent for the same procedure. And we start the treatment on the same day. And the protocol depends from patient to patient, but most commonly followed protocols are natural cycle as well as hormone replacement cycle, frozen embryo transfers. So in women who have regular periods and they're very sure about their cycles, once the scan is normal, we advise them to either start on folic acid 5 milligrams if they have not already started. And if they have already started, we advise them to continue those medications. Apart from folic acid, they also need to take their regular medications if they are on any like thyroxine or anti-diabetic medications and so on. And in hormone replacement cycle, this usually is for women who have irregular periods, or it could also be used for regular periods, because the cycle cancellation, that means if something is not right, usually we cancel the cycle. That is slightly higher in someone with regular periods who we don't use hormone replacement. So in someone with irregular periods, usually we start them on estradiol tablets for 8 to 10 days. And they also need to continue folic acid and other medications they are already taking. When we start these medications, there is no restriction to anything, but we always advise the couple to have healthy diet and exercise and carry on with their normal activities. So they come back to us 10 to 12 days later, and when we perform an ultrasound scan again, this is to measure the thickness of the inner lining of the womb. We call it as endometrium. So this is the most crucial thing for implantation. That means two important things are essential for pregnancy to occur. One is the quality of the embryo, which we already have them frozen. The other is the endometrium, where the embryo attaches and grows into a normal pregnancy. So we check that, and also check the size of the growing follicle if they are in their natural cycle. So in someone who is on estradiol, we check if the inner layer of the womb is more than 8 to 10 millimeter in thickness. Then we start on progesterone medications and plan for an embryo transfer 3 to 5 days later. That is if they have day 5 embryos or blastocysts, which is what we normally do in most of the NOVA hospitals. Then we start progesterone and 5 days later we plan an embryo transfer. But occasionally we do have day 3 embryos in whom we transfer them 3 days after starting progesterone medications. And in someone who is in their natural cycle, if the inner layer of the womb is more than 8 to 10 millimeter and the follicle size is also 18 to 20 millimeter, then we can either give HCG injection and plan for an embryo transfer 7 days later if it's a day 5 embryo, or 5 days later if it's a day 3 embryo. Or we can also look for the day of the egg release and start progesterone on the day and do an embryo transfer 5 days after the day of egg release. For any reason, if the above criteria are not met, we repeat a scan in 1 or 2 days depending on the findings. So this is the picture of the scan, what we are looking at. If we see, there is 3 bright lines in the middle of the picture. This outer and inner measurement is what is called as endometrial thickness, from the outer white line to the from the top to the outer white line of the bottom, which is in the middle of the picture. So this is called as a trilaminar pattern, and this gives very good results if the appearance is like this and if the thickness is above 8 to 10 millimeters. So coming to the day of the embryo transfer, we've started on estradiol and progesterone, and we've ensured endometrium is perfect. And on the day of the embryo transfer, as the procedure is not at all painful, we do not recommend any anesthesia unless in exceptional situations, and patient is awake during the procedure. Our embryologist will thaw the embryos 2 hours before the planned procedure. We expect the woman to have full urinary bladder, and the procedure will be done in sterile theater, and the patient can pass urine after the procedure because this will not affect the outcome of the procedure, affecting the pregnancy success rates, and they can go home after embryo transfer as they do not need bed rest after the procedure. So if we see, this is the relation of the bladder and the uterus, where I have labeled as a bladder, and below the bladder is the uterus. If the bladder is not full, the uterus is not in a straight line, and the embryo transfer will become slightly difficult. So the smoother the embryo transfer, the higher the success rates of pregnancy. And if you see the second figure where the bladder is a bit more fuller, the angle is slightly straight compared to the other one. So if the bladder is full and the uterus angle is straight, the embryo transfer is likely to be very smooth, and that's the reason we ask the women to have full bladder. So prior to the procedure, once we confirm the bladder is full, we also will confirm the name of the couple with the patient and the team who are involved in this procedure, that is the embryologist, clinician, as well as the nursing staff. We'll confirm the number of embryos to be transferred again, and then the embryologist will display the identity details and embryos on the screen inside the theater for the female partner. Not just the female partner, but also the male partner and the family will be asked to view the embryos in the screen, which will be arranged in a separate room outside the theater. So once they see the embryos and confirm that the identity is correct and the number is correct, I request the embryologist to load the embryos into the embryo transfer catheter and bring it to the consultant, who puts the embryos in the right place in the uterus under ultrasound guidance. So this is the technique we follow. We put a speculum into the vagina and visualize the cervix, which is the lower part of the womb, and there is an opening through which we pass the soft catheter under ultrasound guidance, and it should be put in the mid cavity at least 1.5 centimeters around from the top of the womb. So this procedure has to be done in a controlled way, and once that's done, we give the catheter back to the embryologist. So the embryologist will take the catheter back and recheck the catheter to make sure it is empty. That means if there is no embryos in the catheter, that means the 2 embryos are in the womb. So once that is confirmed, the patient will back to the room, and later on they will be able to go home on the same day. So they will be again explained regarding the medications, which is mainly 2 to 3 types of oral medications and progesterone pessaries. And I would like to re-emphasize that 99% of the patients will not need injections after the embryo transfer procedure. Only exceptionally, patients will need, with certain medical problems or previous history, they will need injections. So usually in frozen embryo transfer cycles, unlike IVF, we do not use any injections. And after embryo transfer as well, we do not usually or routinely recommend for all patients. And we advise the patient to come back for pregnancy test 2 weeks after embryo transfer. So during these 2 weeks, we advise them they're only restricted to light activities. Strict bed rest is not recommended at all. We advise them to have healthy food, relaxation, and medications on time, and plan to see them back in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swapna. Now I would like to request Dr. Silva to talk about who will benefit from frozen embryo transfer. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. So you have seen what exactly is embryo and egg and sperm freezing and how is the frozen embryo transfer process done. Now let's go over some cases where a frozen embryo transfer is beneficial. Is this something which is meant for everybody, or are there certain cases where there is a clear-cut advantage of freezing your embryos and transferring them later? What are these situations? Next slide, please. Now, first of all, are the cases where there is a couple where there are too many eggs formed. Now, when we do an IVF stimulation, we don't go in a natural cycle where only 1 egg is formed. We give you some ovarian stimulation injections to produce a larger number of eggs. The ideal number of eggs is between 7 and 15, maximum up to 20. But in some cases, it may happen that even though we have used very low doses or normal doses of hormones, some women, especially, for example, women who have polycystic ovaries, PCOS, or very high number of natural eggs, they may have a hyper response. They may form too many eggs. So if the number of eggs is more than 15 or 20, or once the eggs are ready, we measure something called your estrogen hormone. If the estrogen level on the final day when the eggs are ready is more than 4,000, these are the cases where you are at risk of something called OHSS, or ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. Now, what is this? As you can see in the first image, this is the uterus in the center surrounded by too many eggs that have formed. As you can see in the second image, this is how your ovaries will look on ultrasound. Now, in these cases, because your hormone levels are already very high, certain changes are taking place in your body. In this case, if we also do an embryo transfer, a fresh embryo transfer 5 days after your egg pickup and make you pregnant, your hormone levels become dangerously high. And then it leads to, can we have the last picture? Something that we call the OHSS. Here, in mild cases of OHSS, you may just have a bit of abdominal bloating or a bit of discomfort. But in severe cases, because of these very high levels of hormone, you can have water that starts to collect in your abdomen, around your ovaries, and in very severe cases, even around your lungs and heart. And this can put you at great risk. So to keep it safe for you, to keep the risk completely low, in cases where there is a large number of eggs formed, we don't do the embryo transfer right away. It is better to freeze all the embryos, wait for your hormone levels to come down, and in the subsequent cycle, the embryo transfer can be planned by thawing the frozen embryos. Next slide, please. On the other end of the spectrum, we have couples who have too few eggs. Now, what do we mean by too few eggs? We are stimulating you. We should have a lot of eggs, right? But unfortunately, what happens with women is that we are born with a fixed number of eggs. This is what we call our ovarian reserve. This is what we say when we say the biological clock is ticking. To give you a perspective, a girl is born with about 20 lakh eggs. By the time she gets her first period, this is already reduced to 4 lakhs. And this number of eggs keeps declining throughout the lifetime. It's not like sperms that are produced every day. So you reach a certain age where you have now very few eggs left. It's just your last few eggs. And because the aging process affects everyone's body differently, it's not necessary that this would only happen to a 40-year-old woman. This can happen to you in the 20s. It can happen to you in the 30s as well. So for women in the older age group, or even younger women who have a very low ovarian reserve, say you have undergone an IVF cycle and you have done a fresh embryo transfer. If it works out, if it's successful, you deliver successfully, that's great. But what happens, unfortunately, if you conceive, but then supposing in the first, second, or the third month or a bit later, you have a miscarriage, then you have to wait for a little while, give yourself a break, and then come back to plan another fresh cycle and try and take out a few more eggs. But because your ovarian reserve has now reached a point where it is rapidly declining, a lot of time gap has gone by between your one IVF cycle and your next, and you may reach a stage where you're now almost out of any more eggs that can be retrieved. In such cases, what we advise couples is they can opt for something that we call embryo pooling. So here what happens is you do one IVF cycle and we get a few eggs. Maybe we can get 1 or 2 embryos. These are frozen on something called a cryotop, which looks like a straw. Something like this. Now you have got one cryotop with 1 or 2 embryos frozen. You can, after that, instead of doing an embryo transfer in the next month, you could go through another stimulation process, get out another 1 or 2 embryos, and similarly freeze them on another cryotop. Can we have the second image? This way, in each cycle, we keep collecting your eggs and freezing them on these cryotops until we have these cryotops collected and something like an embryo bank formed for you, which looks like this. We have your straws in the liquid nitrogen container. Now, once you have gathered about 5 or 6 embryos, you have made the best utilization of the last few months that you have of your ovarian reserve remaining. After that, we can start planning your thaw embryo transfers, because now it doesn't matter. Can we have the last image? Now it doesn't matter even if your ovarian reserve is now almost diminished, because your embryos are already safe with us, and then the embryo transfers can be planned. Next slide. Another case where we may need to freeze your embryos is when you have a hormone called progesterone, and this is high on the day when your eggs are ready. Now, you know what happens in a natural cycle, as you can see in this image, you see right in the center, there is this follicle giving out the egg, ovulation that is occurring. As soon as ovulation occurs, the ovary starts producing the progesterone hormone, and this progesterone hormone prepares the uterus for implanting the embryo. This progesterone hormone should start releasing only once the egg is released from the ovary. But when we are doing an IVF cycle, sometimes your body can start secreting progesterone hormone even before the egg has been taken out. And therefore, the uterus already starts undergoing these preparatory changes too early. If that happens, then on the day of the trigger, when your follicles are ready, your serum progesterone hormone, we check this for everybody, will come out to be too high. What is too high? It is already more than 1.5. If this is the case, then your endometrial changes don't match with the age of your embryo. The endometrium got ready too soon and the embryo will not implant. It will lead to reduced implantation in a fresh embryo transfer cycle. So it is better if your progesterone levels have become too high too soon to freeze these embryos and to transfer them subsequently. Next slide. Now, Dr. Swapna was mentioning about how the endometrium should look. As you can see in the first image, this is what a good endometrium looks like. The endometrium is the lining of the uterus. You can see those 3 bright white lines, similarly like she showed you as well. But sometimes while we are doing the stimulation, we find that your eggs are already ready, but your endometrium is still too thin, as you can see in the center picture, in the second picture. You see the thin white line in the center? If the endometrium is too thin, if it is less than about 7 millimeters, there are chances that these embryos are not going to implant. So this is not the time to do the embryo transfer. The embryos need to be frozen. The endometrium will be built up in the next cycle, or maybe we need to look for further answers. Why is it so thin? Make sure it is healthy, and only then we transfer the embryo. And similarly, as you can see in the last picture, sometimes while the stimulation is going on, we find something like an endometrial polyp or some other endometrial problem that did not occur beforehand. And during stimulation, suddenly this polyp has come up. A polyp is an extra growth inside the uterus, as you can see that circular shadow. Now this is there in a place where the embryo should have ideally implanted, so it won't let the embryo implant. In such cases as well, we may need to freeze your embryo, get rid of the polyp first, and then plan your embryo transfer at a later date. Next slide. Now, you also heard about how the blastocyst is a day 5 embryo. You can see in the first image here, the day-to-day progression of the embryo in the laboratory. Now, on day 5, it reaches a stage called the blastocyst. As I was explaining earlier, the endometrium has also by now had 5 days of progesterone hormone, and it is ready to accept the embryo. The number of days of progesterone given to the uterus should be the same as the age of the embryo. So for a day 5 embryo, it should be 5 days of progesterone. But sometimes these embryos are a little lazy. And instead of the blastocyst becoming ready on the 5th day, it can get ready on the 6th day. So what happens in such cases is that the endometrium, as I was explaining earlier, this has already gone ahead. It's like reaching the station and missing the train. So because the embryo became ready later, the endometrium had already progressed, the implantation will not take place. And if the blastocyst forms on day 6 instead of day 5, doing a fresh embryo transfer will lead to a lower chance of implantation, a reduced implantation rate, and in such cases also, freezing the embryos and transferring them in the next cycle is preferable. Next slide, please. Then we come to something called pre-implantation genetic testing. Now, what is this? PGT, or what we call PGS, PGTA. We can see the embryo under the microscope. We can make out its structure and its morphology, but we cannot make out genetic problems in the embryo. So for example, if a couple has thalassemia, husband and wife both are affected, and they want to ensure that the child is not affected. Or sometimes it may happen that because the woman is of an older age group, there are very high chances of the embryos being chromosomally abnormal. Chromosomes can't be seen under the microscope. As you can see in the first image here, once the blastocyst is ready, 8 to 10 cells are gently pulled out from the outer layer of the blastocyst and sent for genetic testing. And when the report comes, as you can see in the second image, the report tells us which embryos are affected and which embryos are not affected. so that we can transfer only the ones which are not affected, the ones which have got normal chromosomes, or the ones which are free of any genetic problems. However, the problem is that this genetic report can take anywhere between 3 to 8 days to arrive once the biopsy has been taken. And because the blastocyst cannot survive for so long, once the biopsy is taken, the embryo is frozen. The report is available in the next 3 to 8 days. And in the next cycle, the embryos can be thawed and the embryo transfer can be planned. Next slide. Then again, there are certain associated medical conditions that people may suffer from. Needless to say, even before we start any kind of treatment for you, we will be doing a thorough checkup, taking your complete clinical history, doing all your tests. If you already have things like blood pressure or diabetes or thyroid problems from before, these will definitely be corrected even before we start your stimulation. But sometimes during stimulation, it may happen that your blood pressure is suddenly shooting up and it's not coming under control, or your sugars or your thyroid levels have gone suddenly out of control. In such cases, though we may harvest your eggs and we fertilize them, it's better to freeze these embryos, make sure that your blood pressure or your diabetes or associated other problems like thyroid have absolutely come under control, they've been managed, and then once you're perfectly fine to undergo an embryo transfer, the embryos can be thawed and transferred into you. Next slide, please. Now, lastly, we have something called fertility preservation. So what does this mean is that preserving your embryos for use at a later date because you don't need to use them right now or you can't use them right now. One thing is it can be for social reasons. As I was talking about the ticking biological clock. Now, supposing it is somebody who is not as yet married, wants to focus on her education and her career, and she knows she's crossed 30, she's crossing 35, then for such women, egg freezing is a very, very good option. Now, similarly, for married couples who are also, the biological clock is ticking, but they have a lot of other commitments. They can't plan the baby right now, but they would definitely want to have a baby in future. Married couples can also undergo the IVF cycle, and for social reasons, we call this, preserve your embryos so that later on, whenever you are absolutely prepared to have your baby, to expand your family, that is when you use your frozen embryo transfer and have your pregnancy at a time when you would have likely run out of your own biological eggs, and then a fresh embryo, fresh IVF cycle might not have been possible at that age. And the other aspect is when we do fertility preservation for cancer patients. Now, if you have been diagnosed with cancer and if you're about to start your chemotherapy, chemotherapy can completely destroy your ovaries. And after that, it may no longer be possible to be able to have your own biological child. But these days, cancer treatments have become very advanced. And cancer only needs to be a chapter in your life. It doesn't have to be the whole story of your life. So in such cases, before you start your chemotherapy, you first undergo the IVF cycle and freeze your embryos with us. You start your chemotherapy, you completely cure yourself of your cancer. And when you're in a healthier phase of life, you use these frozen embryos that you had already kept to then have your family, because by then you may not have any natural capacity of producing eggs left, but your embryos were already frozen with us. So these are the reasons where frozen embryo transfer helps with fertility preservation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swapna. Now I request Dr. Saida to talk about, is frozen embryo transfer better than embryo transfer? Over to you, doctor.
Hello, everybody. You all have listened very nice discussion by the eminent panelist कि FET क्या होता है, कब होता है, कैसे होता है. Now the question arises, क्या FET better होता है fresh embryo transfer से? This very clear now कि the IVF cycle जो होती है, it consists of two parts. First part में we give stimulation to female, जिससे हम eggs retrieve करते हैं, sperm से embryos बनाते हैं, और दूसरे part में we give those formed embryos into the uterus. जब से frozen embryo transfer आया है picture में, the results are very good. There have been studies, इन्होंने कहा कि अब सबका freeze all करना चाहिए, किसी को fresh embryo transfer नहीं देना चाहिए. There were people जो कहते थे कि नहीं, fresh embryo transfer भी अच्छा होता है और frozen embryo transfer is not meant for all. So there were so many plus and minus about what is better, the freeze-all technology या fresh embryo transfer is better. तो the most eminent research of the world, जिसे हम कॉकरेन एक रिव्यू बोलते हैं, उन्होंने पाया कि there is no difference between the strategies of fresh embryo transfer and frozen embryo transfer in cumulative live birth rate per women. That means एक फीमेल जो कि प्रेग्नेंट होने की जो कैपेसिटी है वो दोनों में ऑलमोस्ट बराबर है. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. Now these are the indication जहाँ पे frozen embryo transfer is definitely better than fresh embryo transfer. This has been taken very nicely by Sulba ma'am. I'll just go through in a very quick fashion. Next slide. Now high progesterone. एक चीज आप लोग समझिए कि जो why fresh embryo transfer basically क्यों उसके रिजल्ट्स इनिशियली कुछ कंडीशंस में कम थे, क्योंकि जब आईवीएफ होता है उससे बहुत सारे हार्मोन्स निकलते हैं. वो हार्मोन्स जब यूट्रस की लाइनिंग में जिसको एंडोमेट्रियम बोलते हैं उस पे इफेक्ट करते हैं. समटाइम्स दे एडवर्सली इफेक्ट दैट एंडोमेट्रियम लाइनिंग. दैट इफेक्ट रिजल्ट्स इन इट्स लेसर कैपेसिटी टू अडेयर द एम्ब्रियोज. दैट मीन्स कि जो एम्ब्रियोज बने हैं वो उस लाइनिंग से चिपकने की कैपेसिटी कम रखते हैं. उसी में एक कंडीशन होती है जिससे कि प्रोजेस्टेरोन लेवल जब बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है, दैट कंप्लीटली उसकी वजह से जो एंडोमेट्रियम की लाइनिंग होती है वो अपनी कैपेसिटी ऑफ स्टिकिंग टू द एम्ब्रियो से एडवांस हो जाती है. सो इन दैट केस इफ वी गो फॉर एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर in the later cycle as a frozen embryo transfer, it gives better results. Next slide. Similarly, inappropriate endometrial preparation जो आप लोगों ने अभी तक देखा, कभी कभी during the stimulation we find कि that endometrium lining is not good. तो जो यूट्रस की लाइनिंग है वो अच्छी नहीं है. उस केस में अगर हम फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर नहीं करेंगे और फ्रेश एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर कर देंगे तो जो अच्छे एम्ब्रियोज बने हैं उनकी भी कैपेसिटी बहुत कम हो जाएगी टू गिव अ प्रेगनेंसी. इन दैट केस वी डिवाइड द साइकिल इन 2 पार्ट्स. हम स्टिमुलेशन कर लेते हैं, एम्ब्रियोज को फ्रीज कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद हम उस लाइनिंग का ट्रीटमेंट करते हैं via medicines or hysteroscopy and laparoscopy, and after that when the FET is done it always gives better results. Risk of OHSS has been very nicely explained by Dr. Sulba. This is very important condition in which FET definitely gives way better results. Not only it gives very good results, it is also very safe, because in fresh embryo transfer the patient has very high risk of developing OHSS and it can be disastrous for the women. FET, in fact, FET as a tool was started for these patients only. So all the polycystic ovary patients और inadvertently जिन patients में बहुत सारे eggs निकले हैं जिनमें एस्ट्रोजन या प्रोजेस्टेरोन का लेवल बहुत हाई है, उनमें it is always better कि हम frozen embryo transfer करें. Now these are the indications like recurrent implantation failure, oncofertility, जैसे कि डॉक्टर सुल्बा ने बताया, कैंसर ट्रीटमेंट में या कभी कभी डोनर और रेसिपिएंट में साइकिल मिसमैच होता है. ये वो कंडीशंस होती हैं जहां वी डोंट हैव एनी ऑप्शंस ऑफ फ्रेश एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर्स. सो बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव एनी ऑप्शंस ऑफ फ्रेश एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर्स, हम फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर करते हैं एंड द रिजल्ट्स आर वेरी गुड and those results are at par with those of the fresh embryo transfers. Next slide. Now, since FET is giving such good results, तो हम सबका ही frozen embryo transfer क्यों नहीं करते हैं? तो is FET for all? Now this is a very important question जो patients लेकर भी आते हैं हमारी clinic में कि मैडम हमने नेट पे पढ़ा है कि frozen embryo transfer से अच्छे रिजल्ट होते हैं, और अगर डॉक्टर कहता भी है उनसे कि आप फ्रेश एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर करा लो तो समटाइम्स दे इंसिस्ट कि नहीं हम फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर कराएंगे. सो दिस इज फॉर एवरीवन दैट फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर इज नॉट फॉर एवरीवन. देयर आर इंडिकेशंस. कभी कभी एक सोशल रीजन की वजह से भी फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर हो सकता है. जैसे सपोज कोई हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ हैं, उनके पास सिर्फ 1 महीने का टाइम है, देन दे आर गोइंग आउट ऑफ सिटी या उनका कोई कमिटमेंट है, उसके बाद दे वांट टू गो फॉर फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर, दे डोंट वांट फ्रेश एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर. इन दैट case, so it is fine. Like sometimes the social reasons we do consider, but if you say that frozen embryo transfer is for everyone, then the answer is completely no. It has its own disadvantages. It is not a cost effective thing, because जब हम fresh embryo transfer करते हैं तो we don't have any freezing charges, कोई thawing charges नहीं लगते हैं. Frozen embryo transfers में these two are the additional charges of freezing and thawing plus the medications जो हम देते हैं FET में. Second, it increases time to pregnancy. आप समझो जब patient एक बार आता है day 2 of the cycle पे और वो स्टार्ट कर रहा है अपना ट्रीटमेंट, तो जब हमने उसको इंजेक्शंस देना शुरू करा और अगर हमने उसका फ्रेश एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर कर दिया तो एग रिट्रीवल के 3rd या 5th डे, यूजुअली 5th डे पे ही हम लोग करते हैं, हमने ट्रांसफर कर दिया एंड इफ पेशेंट प्रेग्नेंट है तो आफ्टर 2 weeks विल गेट द रिपोर्ट. बट नॉट द सेम थिंग इफ इट इज गोइंग फॉर द FET. हम उसका एक बार embryo eggs retrieve करते हैं and then we give a break of 1 or 2 cycles and then we go for FET. So it definitely increases the time to pregnancy, and the FET has shown very good results in those patients who are hyper responders, इनके eggs ज़्यादा हैं, young age है, PCO patients हैं, but it has not shown very good results in advanced age patients or hyper responder patients. So these are the patients in which very few eggs are retrieved. Sometimes we can go for egg pooling if it is a doctor's discretion, but many a times these patients give very good results with the fresh embryo transfers. So FET is not for all, frozen embryo transfer is not for everyone. Next slide. So fresh embryo transfer is still a thing. Fresh embryo transfer saves time, saves money, and it gives less load to the clinic as well. It's a very cost effective thing, provided good embryos are formed, good endometrium lining is there, and it completely depends upon the doctor's discretion. Your doctor will keep on telling you about all these things. Less time to pregnancy. In one cycle we can achieve everything from stimulation to embryo transfer to pregnancy, and it has shown very good results in advanced age patients. Sometimes, as Dr. Erica said, that the embryos are not good, so we cannot freeze them, and sometimes those embryos, if we give them as a fresh transfer, they give very good results. So even the 2nd grade embryos से भी pregnancies अच्छी आ जाती हैं fresh embryo transfers में. So fresh embryo transfer still holds its own position, and this is for all of those people who see things, read half things, and just come to the clinic and say, no, we want fresh embryo transfer. Please go by your doctor's discretion. It is not that frozen embryo transfer is for everyone. Next slide. Now, this is what we talked about frozen embryo transfer and fresh embryo transfer on the pregnancy rate, which is almost comparable. Now, when the woman becomes pregnant, तो उसमें भी बहुत सारे कॉम्प्लिकेशंस होते हैं. IVF प्रेगनेंसी आई वुड नॉट से कि बहुत हाई रिस्क होती है, बट डेफिनेटली एक नेचुरल कंसेप्शन से थोड़ा हाई रिस्क होती है. नाउ जब हम फ्रेश एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर करते हैं तो दीज आर द कंडीशन जिनकी प्रोबेबिलिटी फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर से बढ़ जाती है व्हेन द वुमन इज प्रेग्नेंट. प्लेसेंटा प्रीविया, लाइक प्लेसेंटा, व्हाट इज प्लेसेंटा? प्लेसेंटा इज द पार्ट ऑफ द which gives nutrition to the embryo, जिसको हम लोग हिंदी में खरई या रसौली नहीं खरई बोलते हैं. Now these conditions like placenta previa, placental abruption, ischemic placental diseases, ये सारी conditions बढ़ जाती हैं थोड़ी सी fresh embryo transfer में. और baby का weight like low birth weight, very low birth weight, preterm deliveries and perinatal mortality is increased slightly in fresh embryo transfer, but that does not mean कि fresh embryo transfer ही सिर्फ responsible है इस conditions का. Sometimes it is the type of patients जिनमें हम fresh embryo transfer कर रहे हैं जो उनका predilection in complications से होता है. इस वजह से ये studies में पाया गया है कि these things are slightly more than the frozen embryo transfer. Ectopic pregnancy rate is definitely fresh embryo transfer में बढ़ जाता है, लेकिन it is not the reason. Fresh embryo transfer is not the reason कि इसकी वजह से ectopic बढ़ गया. Sometimes it is the reason किसकी वजह से हमने IVF या infertility का ट्रीटमेंट करा. OHSS is one definite indication जिसमें fresh embryo transfer हम अब बिल्कुल नहीं करते हैं. We go for freeze for all. At Nova we do not do any any fresh transfer in hyper OHSS patient with the slightest hint. हम उसको frozen कर देते हैं so that the mother is absolutely safe. But that does not mean कि frozen embryo transfer does not have any प्रॉब्लम ड्यूरिंग प्रेगनेंसी. लार्ज फॉर जेस्टेशनल एज बेबी एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फाइंडिंग पाई गई है उन पेशेंट्स में जिसमें फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर्स करे गए हैं. मदर को हाइपरटेंसिव डिसऑर्डर्स आर स्लाइटली मोर इन फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियो ट्रांसफर ग्रुप एंड पोस्टपार्टम हेमरेज डिलीवरी के बाद जो हेमरेज होता है उसका परसेंटेज थोड़ा ज्यादा पाया गया है FET साइकिल्स में. सो यू सी नॉट ओनली द रिजल्ट्स, द live birth rate or the pregnancy rate are almost comparable between these two procedures. And if you see about the maternal complications जो माँ को प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है during pregnancy, उसका भी fresh embryo transfers में भी कुछ चीजें हैं जो बढ़ जाती हैं और frozen embryo transfer में भी कुछ conditions हैं जो बढ़ जाती हैं. Next slide. So conclusion सिर्फ यही है कि both fresh embryo and the frozen embryo transfer have its own advantages and disadvantages, and freeze for all is not mandatory. It is not at all mandatory. This is the relative success completely depend on indication for the IVF and cause of infertility. फाइनल डिसीजन हर एक पेशेंट का अलग होता है क्योंकि सबका कॉज ऑफ इनफर्टिलिटी, सबका रीजन फॉर IVF अलग होता है. तो फाइनल डिसीजन इज ऑलवेज इंडिविजुअलाइज्ड एंड इट कंप्लीटली डिपेंड्स अपॉन द डॉक्टर्स क्लिनिकल जजमेंट. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Dr. Saida, and thank you all the doctors for explaining us about all about frozen embryo transfer. So we have a few questions. I'll take one by one. My first question is to Dr. Erica. My name is Manisha. I am 34 years old. My question for today is, she has two questions. What precautions should we take to take care of transferring the embryos? Dr. Erica, you can ask this, then I'll ask the second question. The precautions to be taken care after transferring the embryos.
Hi, Manisha. So the precautions to be taken care, first of all, let me tell you that contrary to the popular belief that you should be on a 14-day bed rest is absolutely a myth. There is no need to be lying in your bed 24/7. You can roam around in your house, you can go up and down the stairs, you can do all of your household work. Just don't do anything very strenuous, don't lift heavy objects, and don't run around or jump a lot. Food wise, you can eat everything. There is no major contraindications to food. Just have healthy, nutritious food and keep yourself hydrated. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, Dr. Erica, she has asked is, also please advise how many days or a month we can keep the frozen embryos due to this pandemic situation.
Yes. So first of all, I would like to tell you that since your age is 34 years, or you're 34 years old, there is no need to rush into embryo transfer, as embryos can be frozen for any number of years and they will be in the exact same state when we thaw them, be it 1 year, be it 5 years, or be it 10 years. Embryos can be frozen in liquid nitrogen for indefinite time. So you can wait for the pandemic to get over. And also I would like you to talk to your consultant who's treating you so that she can let you know if you have any associated conditions that she would want you to either delay it or do it earlier than expected. But if you are worried about the status of frozen embryos, they will be the same for a couple of months after now also, and a couple of years from now.
Thank you, Dr. Erica. Dr. Swapna, there's a question for you. Married for 5 years, male has oligospermia, is diabetic, age 29, glucose detected in urine. We have gone through IVF, embryo did not form. What should we do? My AMH is 1.13.
Okay. So basically, the most important thing for embryos not forming is the quality of the egg as well as the quality of the sperm. And also to a certain extent, it depends on the embryology lab and embryologist, but majority of the time it's egg quality and sperm quality. So when they have done the IVF cycle, depending on what they have found once the eggs were taken out, what was the quality of the eggs is something we need to get the information from the embryologist. And we all know that the AMH is one of the indicators of poor ovarian reserve. And the lower the ovarian reserve, the lower the quality of the egg is likely to be. But also in men, there are, though his age is low, due to his other conditions, they may have effect on the sperm. So even that we have to advise to get his medical conditions like diabetes under control completely and have repeat testing. And there are also advanced tests like sperm DNA fragmentation, where it tells a bit more about the sperm quality. And getting the information from the embryologist regarding the oocyte quality and getting your husband's medical condition under control and rechecking with the sperm DNA fragmentation. And depending on these results, whether you need any more investigations or whether you can try again with the different IVF protocol using different medications is something which depends on what they have used in the previous cycle. So I would advise to first improve your medical condition, but the main thing is you should not take too long before you proceed for further treatment, because as age advances, the egg quality only declines and the ovarian reserve declines. So you have to continue to consult your doctors and take their advice regarding how you can improve, like what I have explained, and have the treatment sooner rather than later to have better pregnancy outcomes. Is that clear?
I think so. Yes, doctor. Thank you, Dr. Swapna. Dr. Sulba, this question to you. Hi, I'm Saloni. Would like to know the reason for low endometrial thickness. My embryo freezing is done. Now the transfer has to be done, but for the past 2 cycles, my ET was not adequate, and I also have thyroid.
Hi, Saloni. So there can be a number of causes for a thin endometrium. One of the commonest causes is scarring of the uterus from inside. In medical terminology, we call this intrauterine adhesions. So if there is an endometrium which is thin and is not even responding to the estrogen tablets, first and foremost, we need to do a hysteroscopy, which is a very small surgical procedure. A very fine tube is inserted into the uterus through the vagina under anesthesia, so that we can get a good look at the uterine cavity from inside. And if we find that the cavity is stuck somewhere, the walls are stuck to each other, we see these adhesions, they can be removed in the same sitting and the uterine cavity can be cleared out. Once this is done and you restart your estrogen tablets, there is a much better chance that your endometrial thickness will be better. Apart from intrauterine adhesions, there are certain other conditions like chronic endometritis. This can happen due to previous infections including infections like tuberculosis, which can also cause the endometrium to be thin. These are certain conditions that your doctor, your fertility specialist, will be able to advise you certain tests to rule out. Once the cause has been found and the cause has been addressed, then you can start with trying to build up your endometrium with the estrogen tablets. Usually the thin endometrium doesn't have much to do with your thyroid problem, but that is still something that needs to be addressed before your pregnancy can be planned if your TSH levels are still high.
Thank you, Dr. Sulba. Dr. Saida, this is the next question is to you. Hi, ma'am. I had a missed abortion on 31st of Jan. After that, till date, I did not get my periods. My periods are irregular. I had 3 missed abortions. Please suggest what can I do to get my periods.
Hello.
Yes, doctor.
If you didn't had your periods post your abortion, one thing that has to be ruled out, did the DNC was done, and was it done very vigorously? Sometimes it happens that DNC has been done very vigorously and it completely damages the endometrial lining, and that is the reason that the patient doesn't get periods. Sometimes the patients who are having irregular periods because of the hormonal imbalance also, they don't get periods. Now that has to be evaluated properly, ki why you haven't got your periods as of now. And for that your hormonal assays will be done. If that is and you will be given some medicines like withdrawal medicines. If you do not get periods after that also, then hysteroscopy should be done to see what that it might be intrauterine adhesions has been formed, and that has resulted in having no periods at all. So first of all, the medical trial can be given to you to see whether you are having a withdrawal bleeding. If it doesn't work out, then only the hysteroscopy and further evaluation has to be done. And as far as having 3 missed abortions, you need to be evaluated properly for recurrent pregnancy losses, that why you are having recurrent losses, and further treatment can be directed once those reports are come. Now this include panel and battery of tests. It has to be done properly, because this is a condition which should not be taken lightly, and because that might impair your chances of having pregnancy at all later on. So you should consult a doctor once this pandemic is over. First, get your treatment or the evaluation of why you are not having your periods as of now, and then why you are having missed abortions, and then you can proceed forward with the pregnancy thing.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Saida. Next question, Dr. Erica. Can you help me how to conceive? I've been with 2 open surgeries, but even after surgeries again, I got left cyst with 9 centimeters and the right ovarian is not visible. Kindly suggest me what to be the best treatment for me to get conceived.
First of all, I would like to know your age. If your age is less than 35 years, we would like to see 9.
Ma'am, I think age is 26 or somewhere else.
Okay. So 26 years is a very good age for reproduction. So what we can do is a 9 centimeter cyst, we definitely have to operate and see. Now what happens is sometimes if the cyst is an endometriotic cyst or a recurring cyst, if you keep a very big gap between removal of cyst and trying to get pregnant, the cyst may regrow. So what my advice would be that since it is coming the 3rd time, you can go for an IVF. And what we can do is we can remove the ovarian cyst, and immediately in the next period we can start ovulation induction. We can take the eggs and we can do the embryo transfer immediately before the cyst recurs for the 4th time.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Erica. Dr. Swapna, there's a question to you. Respected ma'am, is it possible to conceive using frozen embryos if a woman has already undergone menopause?
Absolutely. Still, if you have frozen embryos already cryopreserved by vitrification, even though you attain menopause, you can still achieve pregnancy very easily as long as your embryos of good quality. So 2 things again. One is the quality of the eggs declines with age. However, endometrium is not the same. So as age increases, endometrium has relatively much less effect compared to eggs. So once we have the embryos frozen, though you pass the age and achieve menopause, we can give you some hormone medications, as I have told in my talk, that we can get the lining of the womb so that it thickens and appearance is also favorable for these embryos to be put in. So it is possible, though you have achieved menopause, as long as you have good quality frozen embryos. And as long as we can get your endometrium by these medications or by other methods, which there's a lot which we can do, definitely there is a good chances of you achieving pregnancy.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Swapna. I'll ask the last question because to Dr. Sulba. This is in Hindi. मेरा फर्स्ट IVF इक्सी फेल हुआ है. और फेलोपियन ट्यूब ब्लॉक है एंड पीसीओडी इश्यू है, तो अभी क्या कर सकते हैं?
देखिए, अगर आपके फैलोपियन ट्यूब्स ब्लॉक्ड हैं तो आपके लिए बेस्ट तरीका प्रेगनेंसी का IVF इक्सी ही है। PCOS की प्रॉब्लम भी है, आप अपना एज बता सकते हैं? अगर आपका डायना, शी मेंशन द एज?
नो, शी हैज नॉट मेंशन्ड।
तो अगर आपका एज लेस देन 37, 38 है तो आप फिर से IVF अपने ही एग्स के साथ ट्राई कर सकते हैं। ऐसा जरूरी नहीं होता कि IVF पहली बार में सबके लिए काम कर जाएगा, 100% गारंटी नहीं होती है। लेकिन हाँ, IVF एक बहुत सेफ, बहुत सिंपल और बहुत सक्सेसफुल प्रोसीजर है। पहली बार में ही इसमें प्रेग्नेंट होने के चांसेस ऑलमोस्ट 50 to 60% होते हैं। इसका ये मतलब है कि मान लीजिए 1 महीने में 10 कपल्स IVF करें, उसमें से 5 या 6 पहली बार में ही प्रेग्नेंट हो जाएंगे, लेकिन बाकी 4 या 5 को फिर से ट्राई करने की जरूरत पड़ सकती है। अब एक बार जब आपका IVF हो जाता है तो हमें कई सारे और सवालों के जवाब मिलते हैं, जैसे कि आपके एग्स की क्वालिटी कैसी थी, आपके एम्ब्रियोस किस तरह से डेवलप हुए, कहीं हमें ऐसे लगे कि एग की क्वालिटी में प्रॉब्लम है या स्पर्म की क्वालिटी में प्रॉब्लम है। ये सारी चीजें हमें माइक्रोस्कोप के नीचे देख के समझ में आ जाती हैं। उस हिसाब से फिर आपके डॉक्टर्स आपको अगले साइकिल के लिए गाइड कर सकते हैं कि सेम प्रोसीजर फॉलो करना है या किसी चेंजेस की जरूरत है। कई बार जो PCOS के पेशेंट्स होते हैं उन्हें दूसरे मेडिसिन, एडेड मेडिसिन जैसे कि मेटफॉर्मिन, ग्लाइकोमेट से भी फायदा होता है। क्या आपको ग्लाइकोमेट की जरूरत है? ये सवाल आप अपने डॉक्टर से पूछ सकते हैं। क्या आपके पास फ्रोजन एम्ब्रियोज हैं तो फिर आपको फिर से पूरा साइकिल भी करने की जरूरत नहीं है। लेकिन हाँ, अगर आपका फैलोपियन ट्यूब्स ब्लॉक्ड है तो डेफिनेटली IVF ही नेक्स्ट आपको करना होगा। उसके सिवा IUI या प्लान रिलेशंस करके तो कोई पॉइंट नहीं है। बट आप पेशेंस रखिए, कभी कभी ये सेकंड या थर्ड अटेम्प्ट में भी काम कर जाता है।
Thank you, doctor. Thank you all the panelists for answering the questions. People, those who have asked questions, and if you have not answered, your questions will be answered, and we will send you a mail separately to you, so your questions will be answered. To remind you that tomorrow we will not have a webinar. Our next webinar is on 30th, and the topic for that on 30th is know about infertility. So our IVF specialist will talk about what is common in infertility, the main causes for female and male infertility, and what are the basic investigations which is required for infertility. So with this, we will meet you on 30th at 4 p.m. Once again, thank you all the panelists and all the attendees. Thank you very much, and see you on 30th at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.